Hey, this is Mike. Before we get started with the show, there's three little loose ends I want to tie up based on Greg and Chico's conversation before their live show they did last week regarding who killed WCW. First, I want to do an addition. There was some talk about Detlef Schrempf, and Chico said something to the extent of the last time he remembers Detlef Schrempf doing anything was in NBA Jam. And that tipped me off that Chico is not a fan of Parks and Recreation because Detlef Schrempf has been on 3 episodes of Parks and Recreation. The one I remember him from is when him and Tom Haverford, Aziz Ansari, when Aziz Ansari started his business, Detlef Schrempf came aboard as like a celebrity because he played for the Indiana Pacers, and Indiana is where Parks and Recreation takes place. But yeah, Detlef Schrempf was on a number of episodes of Parks and Recreation. So that's one.
I like Rob Lowe. I like Chris Pratt. I like Amy Poehler. I like Aziz Ansari. I like Rashida Jones. I like everybody in Parks and Rec. I just haven't gotten into the show proper.
Wait, Greg, I need to talk with you for a second.
Yeah.
Did you notice one name that Chico left off?
Nick
What's
Offerman.
that?
No, not Nick Offerman. No. Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza. Come on.
Nick Offerman, too, now that you say that. All right, second. Chico made a line about Sam Perkins being drafted between a guy from North Carolina and a guy from Georgetown in the same draft as James Worthy. Chico, you're only 1/3 right. You got the North Carolina part right. That being Michael Jordan. I'm going to assume the Georgetown person you're talking about is Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, that guy.
Problem. Patrick Ewing was drafted in 1985, not 1984.
Oh,
Now, you said that it was in the same class as James Worthy, right?
right. That's I did say that.
James Worthy was drafted in 1982. So you are now representing the 1982, 1984, and 1985 drafts. And actually, the person who was drafted after Sam Perkins with the 5th pick in the 1984 draft went to Auburn. You may know him from his work on Inside the NBA.
I might.
Okay, there's 3 people on Inside the NBA. You know Shaq is too young. The other person went to North Carolina, so you should know who that is. Charles Barkley was drafted 5th in 1984. And now third. I'm going to give you an answer to your question, Greg. You posed the question, why did the Cleveland Cavs have the blue lightning bolt on their jerseys in the late 90s?
Yes.
I came up with a couple of reasons. Well, first off, it's the 1990s. I mean, if you look at anything in the 90s, there's some shade of blue, more of a teal blue, but in this case, that baby blue lightning bolt. So that like screamed 1990s. But there's 2 legit other reasons. First, in 1994, the Cavaliers started playing at Gund Arena. They moved from Richfield Coliseum to Gund Arena in downtown Cleveland. So, new location, New Jersey. I think it makes sense. And actually, they did have that jersey in 94 when they moved. So, that really makes sense. They moved from Richfield to downtown Cleveland. So, let's do an update of the jersey. But second, they might have gone with a new jersey to do a new era of Cavs basketball, because if you look at who was on the team in the 80s, talking about Larry Nance, Brad Daugherty, Hot Rod Williams, Mark Price, all of them were gone or retired when the Cavs moved to downtown Cleveland in 94, except for Mark Price. He would have been around that first year and then traded in 95. So I think those are the reasons why the lightning bolt era happened. It's the 90s, it's a new era, and you're playing at a new arena.
Hold on. But what was the explanation for Whammo?
I think he was the first mascot for the Cavs. I know they had like a caricature with the original Cavs logo of somewhat like a sword fighter, but I'm going to guess maybe to relate with the kids. I have no idea.
Well, they improved with Moondog and Sir Cece.
Well, Moondog and Sir Cece, we've talked about Moondog, how he came into existence. But Sir Cece is basically that cavalier type of character, just in a sort of caricature-ish form. Yes, a sort of the aggrandized head, and yeah, he doesn't look serious. He looks very
He's very buff.
well buff, but I was thinking he looks very neutral. He doesn't look very aggressive, but he looks sort of like a dopey.
Mr. Black.
We should be getting on to the episode, but I have an update. Now, guys, remember when the channel associated with uploading the virtual Ed Sullivan show got pulled from YouTube?
The day that we released that episode, yeah.
That channel has now been reinstated and now has video backed up.
Yay.
So if you want to see the Burt Kirschners, or whatever the hell they were called, you can watch it to your heart's content. Or that girl that was looking at Virtual Ed's,
Little Virtual Ed.
Now for reals, here's the episode.
An anthology about the bad, the short-lived, and the forgotten shows and events in television history. This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Before I change my mind! I give you Super Train.
Episode 478, submission number 298. That Puppet Game Show. That Puppet Game Show aired on the BBC from August 10th of 2013 to January 5th of 2014 for a total of 8 episodes. That's half a crock block. Or actually, this is a UK show, so that would be 22 less episodes than Cheap, Cheap, Cheap.
Hey guys!
Hey, Duxter.
Hey, great to see you. Thanks for doing the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know what? The three of us have got something in common that makes us all successful. And it's the same thing Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman, and Tom Cruise have got.
What's that? Striking good looks?
Charisma?
No, a disproportionately big head.
What?
Yeah, it's why you look so great on camera. On screen, it's really attractive.
What about in real life?
Well, in real life too, yeah.
Just ignore him. Hi, guys. We got you some show hats.
Oh, wicked.
Oh, great.
Love the color. Yeah, you know what? We can get those let out, I think.
Thanks.
Right, see you out there.
Perfect. High five. Left me hanging.
Hey, HD, you look tanned. Have you been on your holiday?
No, it's brown sauce.
Oh, looks really natural, you handsome little devil.
Well, thank you, Doggy. Have a good show, Doggy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to That Puppet Game Show. With our experts, Dr. Strabismus, Amber O'Neill, Miss Jemima Taptackle, Eddie Watts, Jake Hamilton-Jones, and the amazing Ian. With our contestants, Mel Gedroich and Vernon Kay. It's time for That Puppet Game Show. Please welcome your host, Dougie Cologne.
Hey, here we go. Here we go. Where's Dougie gone? Dougie's here. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Hello, and welcome to That Puppet Game Show.
Gentlemen, we're going to talk about yet another game show. But this one, this meant a lot to me. In a way, it's not a great show, but it's not a bad show. I thought of it well enough to put it in our little election vote back in December last year. And it lost out on the tiebreaker in the end. Briscoe County Jr. won. We did that already. Chico's entry we're going to do in September. But now we're going to cover my entry, and this is it. This reminded me a lot of The Muppet Show. And that's really one of the main reasons that I wanted to cover this show is because of the parallels. This is a primetime show. It aired primarily on Saturdays, not the last two episodes. We'll get to that in a little bit. When you see the show, it has a lot of Muppet Show vibes. Where, if you remember the Muppet Show, a lot of it was the backstage antics of the Muppet Show. You know, when you saw the open, you would hear Scooter say to the guests, 15 seconds, and there'd be some little goofy interaction. And that's actually how this show starts. Not necessarily Scooter or a Scooter-like character saying, hey, we're going to start in 15 seconds. But similar in a sense. And you heard how that similar in a sense works in the intro just a few moments ago. So there's a little comic monologue, maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And then the host, Dougie Cologne, he tosses it to a hot dog puppet, I should say. And actually, I should say all these characters are puppets outside of the true real celebrities. So, when I say a hot dog, don't think it's actually like an Oscar Mayer wiener on a stick or something like that. It's a puppet hot dog.
So this isn't like Sausage Party.
That's the only movie I've ever bought that I regretted buying. I actually have Sausage Party on Blu-ray, and I saw it one time, and I'm like, this is the stupidest crap I've ever seen. And I thought it would be so funny. It's like, man, this was like super offensive. A lot of stereotypes and maybe stuff that would have flown back in whenever it was released, 2016, 2017. But man, even when I got the Blu-ray, whenever it was, probably sometime around its release, this did not age well in the months since it went to the movie theater. And probably even in the post-production, if you will, a lot of things changed. And yeah, that's not a movie I want to talk about. It's not good. So the announcer is a hot dog puppet. I've actually given the nickname HD, hot dog, T-he-he. And he puts on a very bass voice. Welcome to the Puppet Game Show. Well, you heard it in the open. And then they, not really like the Muppet Show, but they sort of show all the different characters in the show. And you heard the introduction of all the characters, 6 main characters plus the host. But you also had background characters, ancillary characters who were sort of jiving along to the music. So you got to see all the different characters that were on the show in some capacity. But now the show itself, Dougie Cologne is the host, and he's a puppet. And again, like I said earlier, everybody on this show is a puppet except for the 2 celebrity contestants. 2 celebrities would play each episode over a set of 5 games. There's 4 games that are basically emceed or led by one of the 6 resident experts, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then the 5th game to close out the show is basically a free-for-all where all 6 of the celebrity experts play, and we'll get to how that's done in a little bit. But I want to get to the experts first, and then we'll get to the different games. And then actually within each show, it isn't just a game show, but again, sort of like the Muppet Show, you have plots happening. So it's a game show and a comedy show with an actual plot. It's different. And like I said, I got it. I really thought this is very creative. So our 6 experts. First is Dr. Strabismus, full name Dr. Heimlich Strabismus. He is the science expert. And he hosts 2 of the games. 2 of the games are called Battlestar Galactica, where the idea is to fire ping pong balls to dislodge ping pong balls that are floating on a jet of air on the other player's end of the table. So think like a ping pong table with like holes not unlike an air hockey table. And they're holding up the balls, so they're sort of dangling in midair, and they try to hit the opponent's ping pong balls off the table, with their ping pong balls being paddled. And then Dr. Strabismus also hosts Blow by Blow, which is a race to blow out 100 candles. 99 candles are on the set to begin with, and once those 99 are blown out, one of the hot dog puppets, not the announcer that we talked about earlier, but another hot dog, raises up a cover, and there's the 100th candle that's lit, and they need to blow that out. The second expert, her name is Amber O'Neill. She's the showbiz expert. And the only game that she hosts is called Life's a Speech. And what the idea of that is each celebrity is basically at a dais, sort of like an award ceremony, where they say, oh, I'd like to thank, this person and this person and this person. But while they read the script for this thank you speech, different trivia questions are thrown in. So maybe, let's say they're reading their acceptance speech and it says, and I'd also like to thank the 6 original NHL hockey teams. And they'd have 6 blanks on the screen on the teleprompter, and the person would have to fill in each of those 6 blanks. Or, it might be more of a basic question, but the basic gist of it is they need to answer these trivia questions while the teleprompter has those prompts on the screen. The third expert is Miss Jemima Tap, and she was the sports expert. And her game is called Punch Your Lights Out. Each of the 2 celebrities, they wore a jumpsuit with 100 of those lights, the ones that you sort of can tap on and tap off. I can't think of what they're called. I know you guys have seen it on the infomercials and as seen on commercials and probably
They're
at
called
Walmart.
tap lights.
There you go. So they have 100 of them on their jumpsuit, and they must turn off all the lights on their own, and whoever has the most lights turned off after, I think, a minute or so is declared the winner. The fourth expert is Eddie Watts, who's the music expert, and he hosts 2 games. The first one is called Saucy Song, which is a memory game that involves 6 hot dog puppets. And each of those 6 puppets has a portion of a song, just a line or 2 from a song. And if you squeeze them, they say the line that's associated with the song. Like, for example, and I know this is on one of the episodes, they do Bohemian Rhapsody. So the first hot dog would say, Mamma Mia, Mamma Mia. And then the second hot dog would say, Mamma Mia, let me go. And then the third one would do the next part, Beelzebub. Yeah, I don't remember the song entirely, but you guys know Bohemian Rhapsody. So there would be 6 of them, and what the contestants would have to do is they'd have to put it in order. So it's a memory game, but they would squeeze the hot dogs appropriately enough with a set of tongs. So when they did their choice, they took a pair of tongs and they squeezed the hot dog. And then the second game is called Cheek to Cheek. And the 2 celebrities, while they're dancing with each other, they're actually slow dancing. They have to identify songs that are also slowed down. But the way they have to identify it, the reason it's called Cheek to Cheek is each celebrity has a pad of like Post-it notes, like big round Post-it notes, on their butts. And they have to write the name of the song while they're dancing on their partner's gluteus maximus. The Post-it note pad on their gluteus maximus, if you will. And that has some very interesting results just because if you're moving and dancing and you're trying to write down an answer, it looks like chicken scratch. Maybe not the best of games, but it can have funny results. Expert number 5 is Jake Hamilton Jones, and he's the nature expert. And he hosts 2 games. The first one is called Bird Droppings, where 3 puppet birds, before they play the game, say 3 different sounds. So you might have one bird go cuckoo, cuckoo, and then the same bird, their second sound might be, and then the third sound might be another sort of bird call. So you had 9 different sounds. And when a bird made their call, the contestant, the celebrity, had to run underneath the bird and catch an egg. That was like the scoring method. You caught the egg in a net. And even if you're under the right bird and you didn't catch the egg, you didn't get points. But you had to remember what bird said that sound, but also you had to make sure that you caught the egg and got it back to the scoring zone in order to score points. And then the second game that Jake Hamilton Jones hosted is Dart Attack. For each round of this game, one celebrity was shooting blow darts at the other contestant who happened to be on a wheel where they had their arms strapped at the top and then their legs strapped at the bottom. So if you ever seen like Jackie Rogers Jr.'s $100,000 jackpot wad where they spin the contestant, I know you guys have seen that. Or they did it on Married with Children where Peg Bundy was strapped to a wheel, and in order to win like a bowling ball or something, Al had to spin her more than like a quarter of a rotation, and he just like this spun it with all sorts of gusto. You've seen it. You know what I'm talking about. So you had one celebrity in that wheel, and the other one was shooting blow darts. And there were targets around the circumference of this circle, the spinning wheel. And the celebrity firing the blow darts had 60 seconds to hit as many targets as possible. And then after 60 seconds, they changed roles. The person who was on the wheel, now they became the shooter. And the person who shot the blow darts, they were now on the wheel. And whoever had the most points won that game. And then last but not least, the sixth expert is the amazing Ian, who was a mental agility expert. It also should be noted that the amazing Ian is the only host of these games who is not of the human species. The amazing Ian is an armadillo. And he hosted one game, Nosy Neighbor. And that involved both of the celebrities bouncing on trampolines, looking over a wall to see what a bunch of hot dog puppets were doing. And they had to answer questions about the hot dog puppets. So, for example, if they were doing like a backyard picnic party, maybe one question would be, what color hat is a certain hot dog wearing? Or how many pieces of clothing are there on the clothesline? Or even something to the extent of, there's 3 hot dogs who have numbers on their shirts. What is the sum of those 3 numbers? So it isn't necessarily easy questions. You need to have good observational skills and even, again, good math skills and memory skills when it comes to doing math like that. But also, there was a second game that the amazing Ian hosted, and it was called Glow Balls. And this is only played once, as far as I can tell. 2 contestants, they had a ring of balls, plastic balls, around them, and they would stick their head through them. So you had like this donut shape. There's an opening, put their head in, and they were given a chance to look around at the balls with the lights off. Some of the balls glowed and some of the balls didn't. And what the object was to get 3 glowing balls. And if you got 3 glowing balls, you won the round. So you looked around, you had like 10 seconds to scan your landscape and see what balls are where, and remember the general position of the glowing balls. And then each celebrity grabbed 1 ball from the ring, didn't matter where, and the amazing Ian would ask someone to turn down the lights to see if the ball chosen by the celebrity glowed or didn't glow. And the person who got 3 right won the game. 4 games were played in each episode, and also with 4 unique hosts. So you did not have, for example, Dr. Strabismus hosting Battlestar Galactica and Blow by Blow. So if he hosted on an episode, he would host one of those games, not both. So you got 4 different hosts in the course of the show. But at the end, after 4 games, the final game is the end game where all 6 celebrity puppets, the hosts of the games, they would ask questions rapid fire to the 2 celebrities, and the celebrities would have to answer them. And the questions that were asked are generally related to their different fields of expertise. Now, the scoring is pretty much whoever wins the game gets 2 points, whoever doesn't win gets 0 points. But some of the games, sometimes they give 1 point per correct answer, so maybe somebody could earn 3 points, or I don't think 4 points is possible on a game, but it varied from episode to episode from what I saw. But then in the final round, that end game, which was 90 seconds, I should add, each question was worth 1 point. And whomever had accumulated the most points at the end of all 5 games, at the end of the show,
won £10,000 for their favorite charity.
So that's the game portion of the show. We've got to talk about the show portion of the show, the actual plot lines, but also there's a lot of secondary characters that I think need to be mentioned. Plus also, I do want to talk about where we've seen some of these puppets in the past. Because if you see this, you'll see a lot of familiar faces if you watch certain TV shows in the last decade or so. So we're going to start with Dougie Cologne. He very much has a appearance like a very young Bruce Forsyth, has a very big protruding chin, and actually sounds a little bit like Vernon Kay, who is the host, or was the host, of Family Fortunes, the version of Family Feud over in the UK. Amber O'Neill, the showbiz expert, she is the younger sister of Mancy, who is the producer of the show. And Mancy herself, she's sort of like the Scooter of this show. She's like running stuff behind the scenes. Does not take part in anything on stage. She's just trying to minimize the chaos, if you will. Miss Jemima Taptackle, the sports expert, she was a former gym teacher at a school. And actually, if you see her, I know that puppet was used on No You Shut Up, which was on Fusion, if you remember Fusion, back in like around this time, 2013, 14, 15, 16-ish. It was the same puppet, just not the same character. Because on No You Shut Up, this puppet, the Tap Tackle puppet, was actually a cave woman. So they did recycle a number of these puppets in different enterprises, different Henson Alternative enterprises. Dr. Strabismus, as you may guess, since he's the science expert, he is a scientist, and he's sort of a lackadaisical scientist. Many of his experiments go wrong. There's a lot of explosions. Jake Hamilton Jones, he has an Australian accent and very much comes across like a Steve Irwin type. And he's got the shirt with the buttons buttoned down to about halfway down his shirt. So he's exposing his hairy chest. And like I said earlier, the amazing Ian is an armadillo. And Ian is sort of like the grump of the group. Sometimes doesn't want to go out and host his games. But he's an adorable little armadillo.
They actually used that armadillo puppet on 3 different Henson shows. You mentioned Henson Alternative, which was the offshoot of the Jim Henson Company that specializes in adult content. And the amazing Ian was Dooley the Armadillo in Jim Henson's Animal Show, Annette the Armadillo in Bear in the Big Blue House, and Joe the Armadillo from Kermit's Swamp Years.
So again, getting a lot of mileage out of those puppets. And there are some secondary characters, which you see on pretty much every episode. We have Fenton the Tortoise, who is basically like a runner, doing odd jobs on the set. But being a tortoise, He's very slow. And I do believe the puppet of Fenton the Tortoise was used on No You Shut Up as well. The hot dogs, I know they definitely showed up on No You Shut Up, because I actually have an image somewhere of a hot dog being interviewed with the caption like 68% pig anus or something like that. I love No You Shut Up. At least until like the last season or two. The first couple seasons were absolutely hilarious. And it is on the list. I'd love to cover it one day, but I think most of the footage is basically gone because Fusion is basically gone. So the hot dogs, they appear in Saucy Song. I mentioned the 6 of them. They also show up in Nosy Neighbor, because I said they're doing different activities in the backyard while the celebrities are jumping up and down on trampolines. The scorekeeper for the show is a crab named Clyde Stravinsky. And I know this puppet was definitely on No You Shut Up. I remember seeing this puppet on a couple of shows. He is a very temperamental crab. Just seems like when they go ask for the score, he's always being bothered in some capacity. It's a nuisance to give the score to the game, or he's going through some sort of crisis. You know, his wife left him, or something is always happening, and he's always just really an insufferable pain in the you-know-where.
He's a crab.
In more than one way. The studio chairman is named Utters McGee, and he's a bull. And again, another character I know I've seen on No You Shut Up. And he's all about the money. Well, him being the studio chairman, obviously, he wants to make money. And he's always trying to make adjustments to the show to keep the show on the air, but also to ensure studios making money. There is a monkey and mouse janitor, and I can't think of the character on the Muppet Show who played the janitor, but it's essentially that role. You know who I'm talking about, and I know, Chico, you get these characters all the time when I'm like, I know I've seen this guy in the Muppets, and then you pop out a name, it's like, oh yeah, you're exactly right, that character. So you did have 2 puppets here who played janitors.
Beauregard.
I think we talked about Beauregard in the past, and I think I had the same issues with his name in the past as well. So I need to put Beauregard in my memory. But yeah, you had 2 janitors on this show, not unlike Beauregard. The monkey seemed like he was a little slow. Just saying, putting it nicely. And then you had a family. And family, during different parts of the show, they would cut to this living room scene where you had a mother and a father and a son and a daughter and a grandmother watching that puppet game show and giving some sort of commentary, sort of like Statler and Waldorf.
Sort of a goof on a goggle box, as it were. That show about people watching television.
Would that have been around in 2013?
Probably.
Okay, I'm not making a comparison about, you're right or wrong. I just never made that connection. And actually, it says here that Gogglebox started in 2013. And actually, it says first episode was March 7th, 2013. So that would have been, about 4 months, 5 months before this started. So possibly, I don't know. One other character we're going to add, and this character only showed up on the last episode, was Josh McGee, who's Utters McGee's son. And I told you Utters McGee is a bull. Well, Josh McGee is a human. So good luck trying to figure out the biology at work there. Well, I guess there's loving your meat and there's loving your meat.
Good night, everybody.
Right? Okay, thank you very much. So Josh was on only the final episode, and he was brought in by his dad to review the show and see if there's any room for improvement. However, after being turned on and overcome by Amber O'Neill, Josh decides to leave the show as it is. And like I said, he is actually human, not of the bovine species. So he did not graduate from Bovine University. So as I said, there are actual plots to this show. It isn't just a game show. It is very Muppet Show-ish with the backstage goings on. So we'll go through each episode and we'll give the celebrities that were on each episode. And we actually have episode names. So it really is sort of like a traditional scripted show. We have episode names and we have plots while there's a game show going on. So episode 1 is titled Sacked. I don't have a listing for episode 1, so I'm going to pass it over to Chico to fill in the gap.
Episode 1 is Sacked. We have lyric soprano Katherine Jenkins and TV show host Jonathan Ross competing against each other to win money for the charity of their choice. Meanwhile, in the backstage, Utters McGee instructs Mancy to pick one of the experts to fire. Games on this episode include Nosy Neighbor, Life's a Speech, Punch Your Lights Out, and Saucy Song. And Jonathan Ross won 13-8, winning £10,000 for Macmillan Cancer Support.
That'll take us to episode 2, and episode 2 is titled Dougie's Birthday. As you can guess, it's Dougie Cologne's birthday, and Freddie Flintoff and Gary Lineker battle it out in a sporting clash of the Titans. Freddie Flintoff is a cricket player, and Gary Lineker is a soccer legend in England, or football, if you will, if you're over there. The main part of the plot in this episode is that the amazing Ian doesn't get an invite to Dougie's birthday party, and he feels very slighted and actually wants to get revenge against Dougie during the course of the show. And apparently there was just some sort of miscommunication, or he didn't check his spam folder or something like that. But there was a lot of drama going on with Ian regarding how dare Dougie do this to a friend of his. Episode 3 is titled Man School, and the celebrities on this episode are Jack D and Alex Jones.
Not that one.
Good heavens, no, not that one. Doesn't he have enough problems going on right now? Not that, he should be exempt from those problems, but yeah, not that Alex Jones. This Alex Jones is actually female.
She's a TV host. She hosts the One Show, while Jack D is a comedian.
Chico, I think you have a full episode description for this show, so I'll let you take over.
Music expert Eddie Watts is looking for love as celebrity guests Jack D and Alex Jones contend with a record-spinning tortoise and a sabotaged auto cue in the fantastic world of the Jim Henson Company, all in a bid to win £10,000 for charity. Jack D wins 10-7 over Alex. Games include Cheek to Cheek, Life's a Speech, Paddlestar Galactica, and Punch Your Lights Out.
And actually, I should add, for the second episode, Freddie Flintoff won 10-8, and the games played were Bird Droppings, Paddlestar Galactica, Punch Your Lights Out, and Saucy Song. Episode 4 is titled Jake's Dark Secret. Woohoo! And on this episode are Shane Ritchie and Claudia Winkleman. And I think we all know Claudia Winkleman from The Traitors. And Shane Ritchie, he's a singer and presenter. Oh no, I'm just looking at his Wikipedia, and I saw a show that he hosted, and it's bringing back memories. No, don't put this on the list. He hosted a show called Reflex.
I remember that show.
I sadly do too.
Now, hold on. Was the theme song of it The Reflex by Duran Duran?
No.
But it could have been.
It would have actually made sense if you think about it. But anyhow, Shane Ritchie and Claudia Winkleman compete against each other to win money for charity of their choice. Meanwhile, everyone starts believing that Jake Hamilton Jones ate Eddie Watts. But did he really eat Eddie? No, Eddie's on future episodes, so that's not possible.
A couple notes. Shane won 10-5 with the games Bird Droppings, Life's a Speech, Nosy Neighbor, and Punch Your Lights Out, winning £10,000 for Noah's Ark. This is so far the first episode to have another expert replace an absent one, Amber O'Neill replacing Eddie because he hadn't returned yet. Everybody's still thinking that Eddie was eaten by Jake Hamilton Jones.
Episode 5 is called Flatshare. After the amazing Ian accidentally burned down his house, he moves in with Eddie, driving Eddie insane. Meanwhile, Mel Gidroych and Verdon Kay battle each other out in order to win
£10,000.
Obviously, Mel Gidroych and Verdon Kay were the celebrities in this episode. Mel won 10-7, And the games that were played in this episode were Dart Attack, Glow Balls, Life's a Speech, and Saucy Song. And actually, this episode is the only one where Glow Balls was played. And Mel Gilroy, famous comedian over there, she's also hosted some shows. Doesn't she do the Great British Bake Off?
She did the early seasons of the Great British Bake Off with her partner at the time, Sue Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, that's the comedy duo. That's where she'd be known from. But she's also hosted some other shows over the years. She hosted another show that it was very short-lived, and it was essentially Hangman. This is maybe about 6-7 years ago. Wikipedia, come through for me, please. Letterbox. Oh my gosh. It was basically like 4-player Hangman, 2 teams of 2 players. It was the most just boring television show I've ever seen. Letterbox. Good heavens. I mean, it's so bad that I totally erased it from my memory. But also, as I mentioned earlier, Vernon Kay, he hosts Family Fortunes in the UK. He also hosted The Whole 19 Yards. Another show that I liked back 10, 12, 14 years ago.
A recent show that he's hosted, which I started binging a long time ago, 1,000 Heartbeats.
Oh, that's a great show. Yes. And that only ran, I think, 2 or 3 seasons, which is a darn shame. But also, talking about Vernon Kay, how dare we forget he hosted $1 Million Mind Game. Another great show.
Are we just going to not mention Skating with the Stars then?
Well, given that I don't care about Skating with the Stars, I don't think it's worth mentioning, but okay. I'd rather just bask in $1 Million Mind Game for a second because it was such a brilliant game and it ended getting burned off on Sunday afternoons during the NFL season. What a way to treat a show. But I love $1 Million Mind Game. Episode 6 is Staying Alive. No Bee Gees involved. Your celebrities are Tess Daly and Ronan Keating. They face each other in a bid to win £10,000 for charity. Meanwhile, Dr. Strabismus' horoscope says he is going to die, but he doesn't think so. So Tess Daly, she's known from Strictly Come Dancing, which would be Dancing with the Stars over in the UK. And Ronan Keating, he's an actor and a singer, very well-known boy band member from back in the day. Ronan Keating ended up winning this game 10-5, and the games played were Blow by Blow, Dart Attack, Life's a Speech, and Saucy Song. Episode 7 is Superstition. Now you see the theme song there could have been Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Opportunity lost. Music expert Eddie Watts is sent into a spin after his lucky watch is broke by Dr. Strabismus. Richard Hammond and Oritse Williams from JLS ping pong and slow dance their way in a battle to claim the £10,000 charity prize. So as I mentioned, Oritse Williams, he was in the band JLS, and Richard Hammond, I think we all know Richard Hammond best from Top Gear. Richard Hammond won 10-6. The games played included Cheek to Cheek, Life's a Speech, Battlestar Galactica, and Nosy Neighbor. And then the last episode, and we actually referred to title character earlier in the form of Josh McGee. The episode is called Boss's Son. It's bad news for Mancy when Utters McGee's son Josh arrives to give his judgment on the show. Gabby Logan and Kevin Bridges contend with sunbathing hot dogs and fire hazards, all in a bid to win £10,000 for charity. Gabby Logan is a presenter. She was known for hosting Final Score on BBC Sport for 4 years, 2009 to 2013, and Kevin Bridges is a Scottish stand-up comedian. Gabby Logan won 9-4. The games played included Nosy Neighbor, Bird Droppings, Life's a Speech, and Blow by Blow. Now, the show started out on Saturday nights. And I don't know if this is a ratings thing. I'm guessing it is. But after 6 episodes, the show went on hiatus. And the last 2 episodes, they reappeared around the holidays in 2013 and early 2014, but on Sunday afternoon. And we've talked about this in the past. Saturday night is like the big TV night, especially for game shows. you watch nowadays, and that's when the National Lotteries game shows are shown. ITV shows, there are big shows like Limitless Win at that point. So this followed suit. So obviously the ratings weren't that good, or it would have been put on hiatus for basically 4 months and then sent to Sunday afternoons. And it didn't make it outside of that first week of 2014. But there's good news if you'd like to watch this. If you have either Plex or if you have Freevee or Amazon Prime, there is a channel devoted to BBC game shows. And that puppet game show airs generally about once a week. They usually show most, if not all, the episodes in like a 6 to 8 hour block. So you're not going to get like one episode and then maybe the next episode will be a couple hours later or a couple days later. You'll get it back to 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 back. So you get all 8 shows. And looking at the schedule on Plex for BBC game shows, I saw that on Friday morning, this coming Friday morning, so the day after you listen to this, assuming you downloaded it on the day it gets released on the 13th, on the 14th, in the morning, Eastern time, I should add, they're going to show all 8 episodes. And if you miss it, like I said, not a big issue because they rerun this show, the entire series, all 8 episodes, basically once every week or so. Maybe once every 2 weeks at worst. So you can easily catch it. And I would suggest it because, like I said, it does really remind me of The Muppet Show in some ways, albeit not with the traditional Muppets that we know and love. But you have similar antics and similar, sidebar events like you'd have on The Muppet Show. And the games are adorable. I think they're real fun. But apparently I'm in the minority when I say that I liked it.
It was okay. And I agree with you. It gave off a whole lot of Muppet Show vibes. It definitely did remind me of No You Shut Up. And that is an attestment to the talent behind the scenes, which I'm surprised you didn't get to, Mike. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. All the puppeteers and the talent behind the scenes, because many of them, particularly Brian Henson, who performed Dr. Strabismus, The Amazing Ian, and A Hot Dog, Colleen Smith, who performed Mancy O'Neill, Victor Yared, who performed Clyde Stravinsky, Jake Hamilton Jones, and Dave Chapman, who performed Dougie Cologne. They were all part of the Henson Alternative family. Many of them showed up performing on No You Shut Up, and of course, a lot of them were actually part of that puppet improv show, Puppet Up. And Louise Gold herself, who performed Amber O'Neill, Jemima Tap Tackle, and the Mom, she was actually on the original Muppet Show with Jim herself.
Well, I did mention the puppeteers because I only recognized 2 of the names. Obviously, I recognized Brian Henson, but the other name I recognized was Victor Yared. And really, the only reason I recognized Victor Yared's name is because he voiced and performed as the Weasel on Late Night Liars. Another, I believe, future entry. I loved Late Night Liars. Maybe not for the game itself, but I loved Late Night Liars. So I think that's it. We covered all the intricacies about the show. We talked about its history. We talked about where you can see it, because, again, you can see it nowadays. And best of all, it's free. If you've got Freevee or if you've got Plex. Or, again, if you pay for Amazon Prime, it's there. So there's an ample number of ways for you to see the show. Unfortunately, that puppet game show in 2013, audiences just didn't care for it, and it got the hook, but came back during the holiday season of 2013 and early 2014, and then it just petered out. And sadly, that puppet game show It's just a thing on TV. Man, I almost feel sad after doing this episode because I love it so much and it just pooped out. But you know what's going to make me happier, guys?
What's that?
Why, the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, of course.
Oh yeah, we're 2 months away from this segment being done. We gotta cherish this while we can.
It's time for This Weekend Match Game. Hollywood Squares Hour History. It is now week 33, so as Greg said, we're down actually to like the last month and a half. So we're near the end. And in the squares this week, we've got Renee Enriquez, Fern Fitzgerald, Randy Oakes, Richard Mull, George Goebel, Anna Stewart, Brian Mitchell, and Marty Cohen. In terms of happenings this week, we are still in the middle of the second round of the telephone match. And actually, that telephone match, that second round, only lasted 2 more episodes because we had 3 wins last week, and this game continues until 5 people win the $5,000. And that happened on the Monday and Tuesday episodes, so the telephone match was gone after 7 playings. In terms of big money wins this week, we had $20,000 with John on Monday. We had $10,000 with Marty on Wednesday, and $2,000, the rare 100 times 20, $2,000 win on Friday with Marty as well. So that'll take us to week 34 next week. Oh, we've got a name who really in the last week or so has popped up quite a bit for obvious reasons. You'll get it when we mention it. But again, I think most of the people on next week have been on at least 1 week. I think there's only 1 new person coming aboard. That's it for this week in Match Game Hollywood Scores history. Let's close everything out. That's going to be all for this episode, but please, as always, you can go to our website at itwasathingontv.com and you can listen to the 477 episodes that preceded this one. We're almost at 500 episodes, and we got some good stuff lined up for 500 and beyond. So give us about 4 months. You're going to like what we have in store for our 500th show. And please also remember, we got great bonuses there. Minisodes, the live show that Greg and Chico did this week. Listen to that. Even though I had to make 3 little corrections, they did a really good job at that. They don't know their 1990s NBA. Sorry. But also,
I heard that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? My bad. But also, in addition, we do have extended versions of previous episodes. We have the best of series that Greg released a couple of months ago. And I bring that up because we happen to bring up the Mr. Bogus episode on one of our the groups that we frequent. I'm going to let Greg explain it when we get to the plugs for Place to Be Nation. There's a story behind it. You may enjoy it as much as I did. But also, please remember, we're on social media at Instagram, Threads, Mastodon, at It Was a Thing on TV. But please remember, Facebook, you need to go to It Was a Thing on TV podcast, all one word. And if you want to follow us on Mastodon, you need to search for us at It Was a Thing on TV, all one word, at tvwatch.party. Now, Greg, I'm sure you want to plug some stuff for Place to Be Nation, but I'm also sure you want to get into why we talked about Mr. Bogus.
Yes, of course, the drops every Friday. Of course, today you got the episode that we did last week and this week because I released the Hall of Fame show last week. So that's finally out now on Place to Be Nation. But I got to mention this. On the Place to Be private Facebook group, Steve Riddle is doing the greatest cartoon of all time tournament. One of the matchups in that tournament was Men in Black the series against Mr. Bogus. And I'm not kidding you. Only one person voted for Mr. Bogus, and that was Glenn Butler. Glenn, I'm going to say this right now. How could you? I know you were the only person in the greatest WWE wrestler project like 6-7 years ago who voted for Uncle Elmer. I could forgive it then. But I cannot forgive this. How dare you vote for Mr. Bogus? How dare you, Glenn? I can't believe you did that.
Are you done?
Yes. Now, hold on. I'm not.
Oh, no, you're not. Okay.
Because I have from the PlaceToBeNation.com list from the greatest WWE wrestler project. Like, I don't remember, back in 2017 or something. Now, on the Place to Be Nation page, there's a list for every wrestler that was voted in this project. Uncle Elmer came in dead last. Now, usually there's a quote regarding the wrestler from one of the voters. And the quote is, from Glenn, now someone back me up on Uncle Elmer. Spoiler alert, no one backed him up on Uncle Elmer. Just like no one backed him up on voting for Mr. Bogus against Bennett Live series.
Now are you done?
Yes.
Okay. After that little diatribe, please also remember that we're available wherever fine podcasts can be downloaded, including Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Audible, the Podbean app, independent podcast players. You can find us just about anywhere. And please also do not forget that we are on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to our channel. And please don't forget to hit that notification bell to be informed of all future uploads on the channel, including what's coming up on the podcast next time. Oh boy, next time. I may have anticipated this episode quite a bit because it was the runner-up in our little election day contest last year. I think the anticipation for what we're going to do next week exceeds this by a magnitude of about 200. Seriously. This is an episode I know Greg has been chomping at the bit to cover for years. And boy, if you think we put in a lot of hard work and a meticulous effort in some episodes in the past, I think what's going to happen next week is going to blow you away. I really think that this episode conceivably could be possibly like top 10, top 15 all time. But we'll see about that.
I will say this. Greg and I, we've been having conversations about what we're going to talk about next week. Do you think Greg's looking forward to this? I'm looking forward to this. You think we're going to give it all we got? You know what we're going to give it, Mike? Maximum effort.
Get the hell out of here. No.
Now listen, guys, we're also going to discuss a serious subject. I'm going to mention something in advance of next week. Now, drinking, it's a serious issue. And listen, you should not, if you're, let's say, in high school, have a lot of drinks at...
Look, I'm sick and tired of getting hassled.
Damn it, Matt! Why do you have to keep interrupting us? Like, you have a clear drinking problem, okay? Admit it.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those episodes next time. Right here at It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you, as always, to Greg and Chico. And thank you, as always, for listening. Please stay safe, be kind to each other, and we'll catch you for that amazing endeavor next week.
Wow!
Dad's TV review time. I give this show 5 stars.
That's pretty good.
It's out of 100.
Nice to see he's ready to get on the Dave Meltzer Tokyo Dome scale.
Next week on It Was a Thing on TV.
I don't know. Do you think there's such a thing as fate between two people?
15. I don't care what people think of me. I don't. Absolutely 15.
What is everyone's problem? I mean, a certain person should just learn to relax.
Nick's high school saga continues with all new episodes of 15 every Sunday at 5:30, 4:30 Central.
You'll see.
And